All right, everyone, happy 4th of July weekend here at Stones in the Wild. We usually stay in Eagle County for 4th of July, but this year we decided to shake things up and head to the outskirts of Telluride. We're super excited for this trip because we've actually only been to the Telluride area once before, and it's been several years. So we had a lot of things that we wanted to check out and do while we were here. The camping spot we picked out outside of Telluride is about a 4.5-hour drive from our house, so luckily we got to leave midday Thursday. We knew with the holiday weekend and most people being off Friday that it would be challenging to find a spot, and boy were we right. The original spot we had planned was at the Alta Lakes Dispersed Campground. But unfortunately, all the dispersed spots were taken when we got there on Thursday evening. But thankfully, there's so much BLM land and national forest in the surrounding areas that we were able to just take a short drive and find another spot no problem. We mostly use freecampsites.net and the dirt to find our dispersed camping locations. But you can also just overlay the BLM map with Google Maps and find different pull-offs to help you find a good spot. While the drive there was absolutely stunning, we did pass the Ouray wildfires, and that was kind of a crazy sight to see. Unfortunately, due to the lack of snow this winter, most of Colorado and the Utah border is kind of on fire right now, hence all of the campfire bans and all of the smoke lingering in the air. Thankfully, where we ended up camping was kind of on the other side of the mountains of Ouray, and so the smoke was actually a little bit better even than it is at our house right now. If you know anything about the Telluride area and the San Juan Mountains, you've probably heard about the Ice Lake Trail. While this one is definitely on our bucket list, it's 9 miles and a little bit over 2,000 feet of vertical elevation, so we felt like that was just a little bit too much for us with Liam specifically, and also with me being 16 weeks pregnant now. But we still love an alpine lake, so we decided to try out the Hope Lake Trail. And it was absolutely amazing and did not disappoint. The wildflowers were already popping and there were panoramic views the whole way up the trail. The lake itself was one of the bluest I've ever seen and crystal clear. And thankfully it was a super nice day, so we actually got to stay at the lake, hang out, eat lunch, fish, and just play in the water for quite a long time. We learned our lesson though after the hike last week outside of Steamboat, and we brought the extra carrier for Liam just in case. And I was really glad we had it because the last 500 feet or so, Drew ended up carrying Liam just to the final push up to the lake. Round trip, the hike was about 5 miles and 1,500 feet, so it was right on the border of what we thought Liam could do, and he did fantastic, but I was really glad that we had the carrier. By the time we got done with the hike, it was actually close to dinner time, so we headed back to the site, cooked dinner, and then we're on to the next adventure for the evening. We decided to check out this beautiful area called Gold King Basin, not too far from where we were camped. This area was really cool because not only did you get a stunning alpine lake without having to do any hiking, there were also old mine ruins everywhere. There wasn't another soul in sight either, so we actually got to see some good wildlife, including deer and elk. And after that big day of adventuring, we were all wiped, so we headed back to the site to make cold s'mores, as Liam calls them, since we can't have a campfire, and then bedtime. Saturday was the actual 4th of July, so we headed into the town of Telluride for the annual 4th of July parade. We ended up getting there a couple hours early just so we could make sure we had parking and a front row spot for the kids to see the parade. And while we waited for the parade to start, we walked around the streets and did some shopping, and Liam even made some friends and was playing soccer for quite a long time. The parade itself was awesome and truly one of my favorite mountain town parades that we've ever been to for the 4th of July. After the parade was over, we headed on to our next adventure. We decided to take the truck over the moderate 4x4 road known as Ophir Pass. While technically Ophir Pass is considered moderate, it's still definitely not for the faint of heart. It climbs to nearly 12,000 feet and boasts some super steep, shaly cliffs. Thankfully, Drew is kind of a pro driver, so he did it no problem, but there's no way I could drive it by myself, that's for sure. It took us just about over an hour to get from the town of Ophir on the Telluride side to the town of Silverton. Silverton has always been on our bucket list of places to check out, so I'm so glad we finally made it. The stars aligned, and we ended up getting to Silverton right as the narrow gauge railroad was just about to leave for Durango. Carter absolutely loves trains, so this was a huge hit to see. We got to talk to the conductor and see the train blow its horn and take off, which was honestly awesome. Afterwards, we just spent a few minutes walking around the old historic mining town of Silverton, which didn't disappoint either. This was definitely the most legit mountain town we've ever been to. You could tell it still had its Wild West roots for sure. We drove the pass back over to our side of the mountains. made dinner, and then we're on to our evening activities. We'd already had such a big weekend, we weren't really up for that much. However, we did want to check out the Alta Lakes area that we had originally planned on camping at. At the lakes, we did a little bike riding, walking around, fishing, and of course some rock throwing. And once the sun started setting, we headed back for the night. On the way out, we passed through the ghost town of Alta, which is remarkably well preserved, especially given how trafficked that area is. Although the kids, Liam especially, were sad to be packing up and going home on Sunday, thankfully we don't have long until we're back at it, camping again, next weekend in Crested Butte with some friends. So while sometimes the longer drive can be daunting, even for us when we get to leave midday on a Thursday, and when you have more trouble than anticipated finding a spot, it can seem a little overwhelming, especially with kids on board. I think our biggest advice would just be that you need to be flexible, adaptable, and overly patient, which I know is always easier said than done. But I promise, if you keep pushing and you make the trip happen, it is so rewarding. Now, I'd be lying if I didn't say me and Drew had our moments with things. But overall, we've learned if you just keep trying, there's always another way to make something good happen. So if you're raising outdoor kids too or want to start, subscribe and follow along here at Stones in the Wild.